5 months ago, a nameless boy crossed black water in a borrowed coat with a single copper coin sewn into the hem, in case he needed to bribe his way back home. He had been certain there had been a mistake. Tonight, in the grey dusted reading hall, with the oldest machine on the island lying unmade at his feet, and the whole of Blackflint staring at him in the lamplight, that boy finally understood the truth he had been running from since the night the glass went dark. There had been no mistake. He was exactly where the world had been waiting 300 years for him to be. The only question left was what he would do now that everyone at last could see him. Sigil did exactly what he promised. By the grey dawn he had called the crowns to council. Not all 7 came, but enough. The White House, the Red House of Saith, the Silver House of Vesh, and the 2 lesser crowns of Gol and Oren gathered in the high council chamber to decide the fate of the thing in the west wing. They did not summon Kai. They summoned him only after, to hear the verdict, the way you bring out a prisoner for sentencing. But 2 crowns stood apart from Sigil's council, and that made all the difference. Thrace of Varn stood with Kai. Not for love. Thrace loved nothing but her house's strength, but because she had watched a 14-year-old unmake the Seven's oldest weapon, and a soldier does not vote to destroy the most powerful thing she has ever seen. He is a weapon this island has not held in 300 years, she told the council flatly. You want to break him for the crime of existing. I say a house that throws away a power like this out of old fear deserves to lose to the first enemy who doesn't. Varn stands with the boy. Make of that what you will. And Morin, Lady Morin, who had every reason to discard Kai and punish Ren, surprised them all. She had spent the night doing what her house did best, counting. And she had counted that the secret was already out, that the 8th house was already awake, that the question was no longer whether Ash returned, but who stood closest to it when it did. The shadow does not waste itself fighting the inevitable, she said smoothly. The boy exists. The power exists. I would rather the 7 learn to live beside it than spend our strength on a second burial that will fail as the first one has. She did not look at Ren, but she did not unmake her either. Morin abstains, which, on this island, was as close to mercy as the shadow ever came. When they finally brought Kai before the council, Sigil expected a frightened boy. He had always expected a frightened boy. It was the one thing about Kai he had never understood. Kai stood in the grey dawn light, hollow-eyed and exhausted, and entirely unafraid, and he spoke to the most powerful people on the island the way he had learned to speak from watching them, plainly, in the open, in words that could not be unsaid. You buried my house, he said, because you were afraid of what it could do. I understand the fear now. I've felt it. My gift wants to eat the world, and last night I nearly let it. So you weren't wrong to be afraid. He let that land. But you were wrong about what to do with the fear. You unmade the unmakers, and you told yourselves you'd made the island safe. And all you really did was throw away the one house that knew how to put a broken thing back together. We unmake, that we may remake. You only ever remembered the first half. He looked at Sigil. You can try to bury me too. Maybe you'll even manage it, but you'll be burying the only person on this island who's read the second half of his own founding faith. And the next Ashmark, in another 300 years, won't have a core to teach him how not to become a monster. he'll just be the monster you were so afraid of. He spread his hands. So here's my offer, and it's the same one Thrace made me. Turned around. Let me stay. Let me learn what I am properly, with the houses watching every step. Point me at the broken things instead of burying me with them. Or bury me and gamble that the next one comes out gentler. He almost smiled. I wouldn't take that bet. You've met me. It was not a speech that won them over. The seven did not surrender 300 years of fear in a single grey dawn. But it split them, and a split council cannot pass a sentence of death. And that, for now, was enough. Lord Sale lost, and Sale knew how to lose the way he knew how to do everything, coldly, completely, and with an eye already on the next move. You've bought yourself time, he told Kai afterward, in the emptying hall, the two of them alone for a moment among the grey dust. Not safety. Time. The council won't kill you today, but I have spent my whole life carrying one duty, child, and you have not changed it. You have only made it harder, and longer, and personal. He looked at the dust of his family's machine. My grandfather's grandfather buried your house. I will not live to bury you, but I will spend what years I have making certain that when you finally fall, and you will fall, the hunger always wins in the end. Ask your grey friend downstairs. I am the hand that pushes. He inclined his head, perfectly courteous, perfectly cold. Welcome to Blackflint, Kai of House Ash. You are no longer no one. He smiled his paper-cut smile. I find I preferred you as no one. And he left, wounded, defeated, but not finished, the way the truly dangerous never are. They held a strange small ceremony, 3 days later, in the ruined hall of the 8th house. It was Thrace who insisted on it in her blunt soldier's way. If the boy was a house, the boy needed standing, and standing on Blackflint meant ritual. So they cleared 3 centuries of dust from the long table, and they stood the child's fallen wooden horse upright on the mantel, and beneath the grey banner with its black ring and its single word, Kai took the name he had never had. Not Kai No House, not Kai Varn or Kai Moran, bought and leashed, Kai of House Ash, the 8th crown, the first in 300 years. Det was there, beaming and terrified, the first of the no crowns to swear to a reborn house that would, Kai promised, have a place for the people the other 7 threw away. Kawa was there in spirit, his dry warning carried up from the dark. Build something. And Ren was there, of course, standing at Kai's side where she had chosen to stand, an exile from her own house now, a Moran who had picked a boy over the shadow and would pay for it for years. You know this is insane, Ren said quietly as the small ceremony broke up. 1 house, 2 children, and a man made of dust against the other 7. We're going to lose. Probably soon. Definitely badly. Probably, Kai agreed. She grinned at him, the old sharp grin, the one that had come through his window on the first night. Good, she said. I'd hate to do something sensible. It would ruin my reputation. Kai looked around the hall of his reborn house, at the cleared table, the standing horse, the banner, the 2 friends who had chosen him, the long, dangerous road ahead. 5 months ago, he had owned a borrowed coat and a single copper coin and the certainty of his own nothingness. Now he owned a name, a house, an enemy, a faith, and a hunger. He would spend the rest of his life learning to aim at the right things. It was so much more than nothing that it frightened him. We unmake, he said softly, looking up at the banner. That we may remake. Wren answered. And for the first time in 300 years, the words were not an epitaph. They were a beginning. That night, Kai slept in the hall of his own house for the first time, beneath his own banner, and he dreamed. He dreamed of the black ring on his wrist, and of it tightening the way it had on the very first night, the way the pupil of an eye tightens when a light is brought near. He dreamed it was listening. He dreamed it was answering. And far out across the black water, past the cliffs, past the fog, past the edge of every map the island kept, something answered back. It had felt the glass break. It had felt the eighth house wake, a fire it had thought long cold flaring up again on a rock in the northern sea. For 300 years it had waited, patient as stone, for exactly this. For an ash mark to open the door, to break the Seven's great machine, to stand up under the grey banner and say the old words aloud. Across the water, in a place the crowns of Blackflint did not know existed, something very old and very patient opened an eye of its own, and it began, at last, to cross the sea. Kai woke at dawn with the dream already fading, and the strange, certain feeling that his story had not ended. It had only, finally, begun. That was the Season 1 finale of Sigil and Ash, Episode 10, Ash and Crown. Thank you for following Kai's story from a borrowed coat and a single copper coin all the way to the rebirth of House Ash. Season 2 is coming. The thing across the water is already on its way. If this story kept you company, subscribe and tell me in the comments, what do you think is crossing the sea? I'm reading every guess. Until the next tale, this has been Sigil and Ash.